Wow, so we've got another arrest regarding the Epstein files. It says Peter Mandelson arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This is happening in the UK. You also have this from the Wall Street Journal. Police arrest Britain's former ambassador to the US over Epstein links. Again, we're talking about misconduct in public office, suspicion that is. Let's see what the local news is then saying about this arrest.
I think it also speaks to a lack of judgment on the part of the Prime Minister, and part of the process now of getting to the bottom of exactly what happened will also be what happened around his appointment, what information was known at what time and by whom, and were the right decisions, justifiable decisions taken in that context. So there's a lot that we need to know about. But it does seem to me that you've got a rather chaotic number 10, a Prime Minister whose judgment has been severely lacking, not just in that, but in issues around others like Matthew Doyle, for example. And now we've got this situation with the journalist Gabriel Program, who was investigated at the behest of Labour Together, and there are lots of issues around that. We've got Laurie Magnus, the ethics advisor, looking into that as well. There just seems to be this swirl of poor judgment and inappropriate things going on in and around number 10.
Swirl of poor judgment, inappropriate things going on. And I think there's going to be more evidence and things released in a couple of weeks, or maybe a week from now. They said early March, which I'll go over in a moment here. Let's listen to look at more local news. This is again in the UK.
Of course, the reason why they're being published is because the Prime Minister has been absolutely clear that he wants full transparency about the process of appointing Peter Mandelson, as well as reviewing the way in which those appointments, and particularly that the vetting happens. You know, you can't have it both ways, Mark. You know, if that wasn't happening, you'd be saying to me, why is there not more transparency? The Prime Minister took swift action against Peter Mandelson when the extent of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein became clear, and he's now making sure that the information and messages around that are being released as effectively as possible, whilst of course not prejudicing any investigations that are underway at the moment.
Right. I mean, but you can't have it both ways either, because Keir Starmer made the decision in the first place.
And that's part of what the messages will identify. It's part of the reason why Keir Starmer, having apologised for making that decision, is now making sure that all of the information around it is available for people to see.
So it appears to be very different in the UK than the USA. It looks like there's shame here. Looks like they are going to release more stuff and making arrests. And I want to hear from people in the UK on this one. We'll go through exactly what this says. It says, police arrest Britain's former ambassador to US over Epstein links. Okay, so what do we have? Peter Mandelson, the former UK ambassador to the US, was arrested Monday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Revelations linked to convicted offender Jeffrey Epstein. You guys don't know this, it is. Continue to send shockwave through Britain's establishment. The arrest came only days after former Prince Andrew was also detained by the police on the same offense. So that happened before. I think Andrew's been released from my understanding of this. It does look like, though, they're investigating several places. I think this was like a couple of the guy's residents. They're talking about Mandelson here. And this is certainly sending shockwaves around, right? I mean, Trump's freaking out today, which I'll get in a moment here. But yeah, Trump is definitely freaking out because you're always like, what's Trump up to? Mandelson, a totemic figure in the on the left of British politics, was photographed being escorted from a property in London by police officers. That's what we're showing you guys. Shortly after, Metropolitan Police confirmed that a 70-year-old man was arrested and taken to a police station for an interview. Their rules are really different in the UK than, say, the USA, where on the release of names and stuff like that. And then I guess their rules are different also when reporting, to where the news is really careful on like when they release someone's name, et cetera. So when they're talking about openly on TV and showing you footage, so you can see what's going on here. Files released by the U.S. Justice Department appear to show that Mandelson emailed confidential government correspondence to the disgraced financier. They also appear to show that Epstein wired $75,000 to Mandelson. Police didn't comment on what their investigation was focused on. Well, certainly you're going to want to figure out what's going on with that, right? Why are we sending money around? But it's interesting. It's Epstein sending money to Mandelson. Huh. Okay. Mandelson hasn't responded to requests for comment. He has previously said he has no recollection or record of receiving the funds, that the payments, quote, need investigating by me. Huh. So there's a lot of questions with that, of course, right? What's going on with the money situation? Is it you yourself, someone in in your office? How many people knew about this? Anytime there's sort of money trail, right? I always say follow the money. Are you just flat out lying about this stuff? Who knows? I mean, they just arrested you. The scandal has already rippled through the British political system, forcing UK Prime Minister Starmer to apologize for having appointed Mandelson. So why did you even pick this guy in the first place, essentially, to the role of U.S. ambassador in 2024, despite his affiliation with Epstein being public knowledge. I see. Starmer's top aide, and it's kind of funny, I was just thinking about that, where, say in the USA, Trump's got photos and videos, like we all know he's connected to Epstein, right? And yet people still vote for it, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. And so they're talking about here is like, Starmer, why would you even pick this guy? We all know he's part of Epstein. So, and it's not just Trump himself. I mean, it's like a bunch of people that Trump associate with. It's crazy. So it's very different in UK, it appears. Starmer's top aide, who had advised on the appointment, recently resigned. Okay. So anyone who's connected to this then is shamed. Starmer repeatedly said Mandelson lied to him about the extent of his friendship with Epstein, who pleaded guilty to procuring minors for, you guys know, in 2008. So not good stuff there. Westminster is bracing for scandal to reignite in early March, when the government is due to publish a large batch of internal correspondence in a lead up to Starmer's decision to name Mandelson as U.S. ambassador. So we're going to see like how well did they vet, because if it was public knowledge that this guy Mandelson was connected to Epstein, where there are a lot of talks about this, because then Starmer's saying, no, Mandelson lied. So will there be an actual email in there that say, Mandelson to Starmer's like, I had no idea who that guy was. And then, then there's like, hey, what about this photo? I got no idea what that is, right? That will they see like there's like blatant lies in this stuff. It's interesting that they're waiting till early March. So we know they have these things out there. Are they redacting stuff or whatever? That would be my guess. But we'll see. I mean, UK sounds to be very different than what's going on in the USA. Mandelson was initially forced to quit as ambassador last year when emails showed that he had remained in contact with a disgraced financier far longer than previously known. The release of further emails also appeared to show how Mandelson and Epstein communicated about official government business. Interesting. And for this kind of stuff, you sometimes get people on various charges or whatever, depending on the kind of evidence that there is. And I always think about, like Capone, I think they end up getting him on taxes, if you guys remember this. This particular Epstein thing, if there are indeed lots of emails, if there's record of the money, those are probably the things that I'm interested in on that. You're looking for hard evidence here. And who else is connected? And just the fallout alone and just like, why did you even pick this guy? There could have been any number of other people. So that's going to be really interesting in how this means for Starmer. I think his popularity is already really low in the UK. And also then Starmer's been snuggling up to Trump, which is bizarre in itself. So there's a whole other thing with that. And I also want to hear from people in the UK what your opinions on this stuff is. This appears to be pretty big, and it seems like justice is moving forward in the UK, and let's hope other countries follow. So that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you all in the next video.